All right. So, Terry, appreciate you being with me. Now, I just hit record real quick because I said, "Hey, we're losing some of the best stuff. We're jumping right into it."
Well,
These
it is
conver
if you're talking about Eagles,
Yeah,
and
talking about
us.
Eagles, and we ain't talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, by the way.
No,
You can
no,
just tune
no,
out right
no.
now.
Let's
Anybody that's
clear
about that,
that up.
we're talking about the only good entity named
Yeah,
Eagles, and that is correct. In fact, they are not called the Eagles; they're called Eagles.
Eagles.
Right?
That's
We know
right.
that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So we were just talking about you've been to several Eagles concerts.
Well,
And
and I wasn't like we were also talking about the contrast. We also like my wife likes Alan Jackson, so we just came off an
yeah.
Alan Jackson concert, and I'm going to Eagles at the Sphere
Oh man,
in Vegas in
that's killer.
September. Come on.
That's killer.
It puts me ahead though. That means seeing the Eagles 4 times. We've seen the Alan Jackson, who's finished up now on his road show. But I'll tell you, when the Eagles slipped in Vince Gill,
Vince Gill's one of my favorites.
they didn't, and he doesn't miss a beat.
No. Oh
I
my
mean, I don't
God.
know if you've heard him with Vince in it, but it
I haven't
is,
seen him, but I've heard several songs
yeah.
with him. And
Oh my gosh,
I mean, well, first
he's
off, just
unbelievable.
one of the most buttery voices that's ever
Yeah,
been on earth.
yeah,
Um, Phenomenal guitar player.
yeah.
Of course,
But,
he's,
so
you know,
What's buggery? I don't know. Buggery. I haven't.
what's that? You lost me on that one.
Well, what word did you just use? Did I
I
not
said
hear right?
buttery, butter,
Butter.
butter. And it's that Texan coming out. So it's,
I had it coming out, and it
yeah.
came out buggery. So there.
But we were talking about the Eagles, and I think that this is one of the things you were talking about. They don't have. I mean, now they, and you'll see it at the Sphere. Obviously, I mean they got a
Yeah.
great audio visual going on.
Oh yeah, Hotel
But
California and everything.
yeah, but they never needed nor
No,
used fancy
no,
dress,
no,
parachute pants,
no, no,
light shows. They didn't need
no.
it because they were that good. They didn't
Yeah.
need that stuff.
And when they harmonize, it's like all that other stuff just fades,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
boom, in we
yeah,
go. So
yeah. I think the harmony of the Eagles was right there with Crosby, Stills, and Nash
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
far
yeah,
as
yeah,
great
yeah,
harmony.
yeah.
Um,
And when they perform. I mean, they don't bring all the others. I mean, they actually do it, and
yeah,
that's the thing I appreciate it about it most too. And I'm not bagging on some of these real old guys. I'm just saying, uh, let's just. Some people may not like us, but let's just say I saw Chicago
yeah.
just recently.
It was,
The instruments were dynamic.
yeah, yeah.
After that, it got a little sketchy.
Got bad, huh?
We're hitting the high notes like they used to, let's
Oh,
just
I
say.
can imagine it'd be a little tough doing that. They were good in their day. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things that I've liked about the Eagles in concert is that, I mean, they've sang "Life in the Fast Lane"
Yeah.
thousands of times. They've sang "Take It Easy" thousands of times.
Thousands of times.
And a lot of these artists that have had these great hits that are singing them thousands of times,
I know where you're going.
yeah, they get real sloppy with it. They mess with the lyrics or they just sloppy deliver it. And that's the things I appreciate about the Eagles is they sing it like you remember it because they believe you've paid, and you have paid good money to go see the Eagles.
You definitely have.
Yeah,
But they understand that transaction. They go,
right.
If you're paying that money, you want to hear that song, and you don't want to hear our latest rendition. You want to hear it like you remember.
Like you remember it. Like you remember it when you were when you were driving that 72 SS with Krager mags and listen to it off an 8-track. That's what you get.
Well, that was you. I was driving a 74 Pinto, all stripped down, because that's all I get for.
Those are in demand now. It's kind of
I hear that. The people want the Pintos. Nobody can find them because you hit them on the backside too much, and they
They
blew
blow
up.
up.
You know.
They blow up. My sister had the Chevrolet counterpart to the Pinto, the Vega.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a dog that was!
Oh man, it was terrible. It was went back one time, and I had to wait until the statute of limitations, on this one to tell my sister what I did one time. I was probably 10 years old. Nah, I'd probably been about 12, and her her boyfriend was coming over, and they were going to go somewhere in her car, and I didn't have anything to do. So that Vega had a hatchback, and I crawled
Oh
in the
yeah.
back of that hatchback and crawled under a blanket. And
Oh my gosh, Ford, are
I,
you kidding me?
I went on their date, and my God, her boyfriend would have killed me. They would have never found my body if he would have discovered me back there. But yeah, I did.
You
I
mean
ain't got nothing
you
better to do
stayed down the whole time?
the whole
Didn't kind of
time.
like reach over and grab her shoulder or something?
No, because that dude would have killed me. But I was bold enough to do it. I did do that.
Well, the buddy I hung out with in high school, he had a Corvair.
Oh yeah,
So we're predating the
what is it?
Vegas.
What is it? What is it that Nader said? Dangerous at any speed. The
At
Corvair.
any speed, he had that car.
Yeah.
He drove up into my driveway one night, and we're sitting there yucking it up or whatever. It's late, and all of a sudden the car starts moving. He forgot to put that sucker in park,
Oh no.
and that thing started rolling down the hill, and we were in a neighborhood, and it was headed right for my neighbor's front yard that had their car parked right.
Oh no.
And talk about statute of limitations. We tried to stop it. We couldn't stop it, and we were back.
Of course you couldn't.
And we were the last deal between, and so we got ourselves in between this
Did you really?
Corvair and their car. This really happened, and we stopped it. I don't know how we did it, but we stopped it. Adrenaline's going crazy.
Oh yeah.
So then we roll his car back up, and I go, we're sitting there just, can you believe that just happened or whatever? And he goes, I'm sure glad we didn't hurt the other car. This is the truth. We went down the street to where that car was, again, down the driveway, and there were two bud marks.
Two butt marks. I knew what you were going to say.
Right in that, whatever that metal was, it was cheap as could be. So there you go.
But the neighbors never found out.
Yeah, no. And if they did, they didn't. Those are two weird little indents in the car. How'd they get there?
Oh, that's hilarious. I knew that's where you're going with that. Well, so we're well into a conversation about young men.
We're into a sage conversation.
We are. This is a sagebrush convo because we're talking about what young men do and what old men do.
Yes, sir.
Old men go and watch their rock star heroes from 40 years before.
Yeah. And embellish their stories.
Embellish it, and some stories don't need embellishing.
Yep.
So one of the things that I've really appreciated you as a friend, and you were a prof for me. And then
don't date me that far.
I'm sorry. That is dating you big time.
That is a little bit. We're not
but then
that far apart.
A man that we mutually loved, and I feel like he had a big influence on me. He's had huge influence on you. Is Bobby Clinton and the work that you've done. Really, I think when people talk about Terry Walling, they say, "Oh, he's Bobby Clinton's protege," and I think that's right. That's correct. Yeah. And Bobby stuff, a lot of us have laughed about just if anybody still owns a Robert Clinton or Bobby Clinton book. It looks like it was written on a typewriter, and
on the other side of it too, it is I've had people tell me, especially The Making of a Leader, which is a classic.
Oh yeah,
I've had people tell me it's the only book I ever had to look at the glossary to try to figure out what in the heck is this guy talking about.
Well, he created his own language.
He did. He absolutely did.
He really did. All those codes and everything, but it's just absolutely brilliant. But But so much of that work, even, and then going into just for men, and it's true for women too, but for
Sure.
men particularly, I know it
Absolutely.
was a savior for my life, because I was just reaching 40 years old. I was
Yep.
20 years into vocational ministry, 10 years into a church plant,
Yep.
and started thinking I was losing my mind because I was
Yep.
going through that 40 transition that I'm gonna have you
Yep.
talk about here in a minute, Terry. But when I was able to, I just happened to be taking Bobby's classes right when I was going through that I thought it was crisis, and I
Yep.
remember sitting at Coco's, which I'm sure you sit at Coco's many times with Bobby,
Absolutely.
and in fact, I asked for an appointment with him. We went and had breakfast, and Bobby, I mean, he has the menu like this. He's just,
Yes.
I can see him just peering over me with the menu. He's looking at the menu, and he literally goes like this, and he's dead serious. He goes, "You're buying, right?" And I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Okay."
And you know what? He did that. Don't take it personally. He did that to
Okay.
everybody. Everybody.
I
Every time I
figure he
went.
did. I figure he
You're
did.
taking his favorite Italian. You're taking me to Domenico's, right? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
taking you there.
Hey, that was a small price to pay to get
Absolutely.
that kind of tutoring,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
So love that, man. So anyway, let's talk a little bit
Hmm.
here. Let's start off talking just a little bit, Terry, about these different transitions. And we're men here, so we have sagebrush women too, but we let the women talk about the women stuff. I'm
Okay.
that smart.
Okay. All
I'm that
right. We're
white.
getting down to it. Yep.
So we're
Yep.
going to talk about men here.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit, and you don't have to do the whole teaching or anything, but just give a cursory view of kind of
Yeah.
those key stages that
Yeah.
we all go through.
Well, just in case, the big thing why it's had such an impact. I mean, Bobby had the same impact on me that he had on you, that he's had on thousands.
Yeah.
He put words and labels to the things we were experiencing, as opposed to feeling like, in some sense, we're going through stuff and we don't have what it takes anymore. Because for
Yeah.
men, that will come down a moment, and ministry is a good separator of that can cause you to feel like, well, what was I thinking in terms of trying to get in and do this thing called ministry? And the thing that I participated in with Bobby, and the reason it's so powerful, I think, is because over 4,000 historical, biblical, and contemporary leaders were studied.
Mm.
So the stuff he gave was not coming from a business import, or was not coming from a something that he thought up one day at an ivory
Yeah.
tower and didn't have any relevance. It came from lives. I mean, I participated in that thing and studying all these leaders' lives, and so the observations that he had are just uncanny
Yeah, and it's
because
legitimate because of that. It's
yeah,
legitimate empirical data.
exactly, and it's biblical too, in
Yeah.
terms of, because we studied historical, a lot of biblical leaders. In fact, most of the leaders in the Bible, and even contemporary leaders. So
Hmm.
it spans versus the fads and the
Yeah.
things that, a fad book usually is written early on in a leader's life and doesn't last long. The legacy books are written at the end of their life and have more lessons in them.
Hmm.
That's why they end up sustaining over a period of time. But anyways, when I studied just like you with Bobby, all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, this guy's reading my mail and the stuff I'm
Hmm.
going through. I did not realize that God uses people, events, and circumstances to shape us.
Hmm.
And that, for me, was my first breakthrough in this. That I kind of, I was living in a cloud. I knew about, the shaping, the potter, all that kind of stuff. But holy smokes, God was using the people that I was encountering, circumstances I was facing, the events I had to go through, some good, some bad, all used to shape. I mean, it's just
Mm.
powerful. And so for 30 years now, I've been out trying to help contextualize that.
Yeah.
One of the stories I tell is Bobby is a nugget digger. He'd go down in there ground and imagine an old squatty guy. Well, Bobby, forgive me, I said that. But anyways, going down into a coal mine, digging out this stuff, rolling it up to the top. Walling, get over here. I got over there. I looked at it. I could see all the sparkles and all the gems that were in the midst of all that coal stuff. And I look up and say, Bobby, this is incredible. He's already down into
Right.
the hole again, digging out some more nuggets. So
Right.
there's my official description of myself and Bobby. But I mean, there's so much that he mined from these lives. And I love the paradigm that we don't make leaders, God shapes leaders.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't form them. Spirit of God is at work in the formation process. We don't tell them that their life has purpose. The Father and the overarching narrative just actually tells us that life has
Yeah.
purpose. So
Now, let me ask you something here,
all good,
Terry,
all good.
as you go forward here.
Did I even
Uh,
answer the question? Or
no, yeah, no,
yeah, okay,
you're answering it. You're answering it.
okay,
So, but there's going to be a lot of guys that are on here and involved in sagebrush in particular. They're
yeah,
going to go, "Hey, I'm not a leader. I'm not. I'm not in quote ministry," which you and I both believe
yep,
everybody is, because ministry means serving. So
yep,
we're all called to the serving at the behest of the Father. But if you are a father, if you are a husband,
yep,
you're a leader. If you're
yeah,
a neighbor, you're a
yeah,
leader, right?
yeah,
So this stuff, what you're saying from this so far and from this point forward, it
yeah.
applies to us all.
All the way across the board. And to me, that was another breakthrough for me when he told me that leadership was influence, not position.
Yeah.
When people say that they're not a leader, they're usually saying, I don't hold the position of leader. And
Right.
the answer is that's not the point. The point is you're being shaped over your lifetime for influence. So whether you're a dad, whether you are a line worker, whether you're out there actually on a farm all alone, wherever you are, you have been shaped for influence. And so all these things occur to us to bring us to the point of, are we going to then join God in the work of him shaping us to influence others for his kingdom, regardless of the position? In fact, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I've discovered too, Lance, is that when you take the view of positional leadership, where leadership has to do with position, that's culture.
Yeah.
When you take the view of leadership as influence, that's kingdom.
That's so good. Great
So,
distinction.
and then people say back to me, well, then what is position? All position is the delivery vehicle. It's the thing that God gives to us to deliver the influence
Mm.
that He shaped into
Mm.
us. So that has all of a sudden in my 30 opened it up to everybody,
Yeah,
young, old,
absolutely.
men, women, people in the marketplace, people in the mission. It it extends to each one of us.
That's so good because that when people talk about vocation, of course, vocation and vocal have
Yeah.
the same roots. So vocation is your voice. It's your
Yep.
calling, right?
Yep.
So,
And
and we all have that. I like that with the
that
delivery.
vocation is that delivering out that influence. And so it then what it caused me to do is, well, if that's the case, and I do believe it is after all these years, the reality is, so how has he shaped me for influence? And so the power is in the story.
Mm.
Every one of us have been shaped over time. Discipling is not this 8-week stamp them and say they're disciples. It's a lifelong
Yes.
journey.
Yes.
And I tend to be at the end of that journey now, and I am still being discipled.
Sure.
I mean, you could say, well, come on, well, only when you're ever going to grow up. But the reality, that is the discipling process, the
Yeah.
ongoing growing into, who he made us to be.
Okay, so let's talk about and then we're going to go back. We're going to move backwards. So we'll reverse engineer here a little bit.
I'm good, man. You lead, I'm follow. You're Maverick, I'm Goose. I just don't like what happens to Goose, but that's all right. That's all
I
right.
know it's sad. Um, so in you are in you're in the sage stage, and
Yeah.
this is the stage that Bobby Clinton called what? What did he call this stage?
Well, he called this stage convergence.
Convergence, right?
So he gave us 5 different, what technically the word would be phases, that an individual goes through en route to hearing well done, thou good and faithful servant. So the convergence is when being meets doing, when who you are meets what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're ministering not out of all the things you could do, but you're loving on people, you're caring for people, and you are actually influencing people out of this journey that you've had as you've tried through the ups and the downs, the rights and the wrongs, the sin and the forgiveness. All of that has contributed to um, giving to you something that potentially you can give to other people. And in this last phase with the sages, the key is living beyond yourself or
Mm,
living past your days. Understanding that if you can consolidate what you have and you can give it to somebody, Ephesians 4, they can actually take it and do it better,
yeah.
which
Yes.
is the whole
Amen.
point of this whole thing, as
Amen.
opposed to building the kingdom around us and demonstrating that we have what it takes, kind of thing.
Yeah. So good. So I remember when I was going through that time when I think I was 40. I just turned 40 and I was going through that. I thought I was losing my mind because I was
Yep.
feeling a change. I was feeling a big change coming on. And it was not convenient. It was not convenient to
It
make
never
a change,
is.
you know, and it was changing really into a different primary ministry gifting.
Yep.
But I thought I was losing my mind. My kids were in their early teens.
Yep.
We were just a few years into building our dream house, our little hobby farm. I was pastoring this church at 10 years old, and it was like the light switch went off in me, and I wanted to
Yep.
quit. I didn't want to, it wasn't burnout.
Yep.
And, but when I sit down with Bobby, I remember him talking to me about the phases, and he
Yep.
started explaining the phase I was in, and he just kind of grinned and he said, you know,
Yep.
you thought you were doing ministry all these years, and he said no, the Lord was preparing you to do ministry, what you're called to. And I was devastated. I was like, what? I just gave 10 years to this, and you're saying it was all for nothing? And he said, nope, that's not what I said. I wasn't saying it was all for nothing, but it was preparing you for what you are really called to do. And he said, if
Absolutely.
you do that good over the next 20 years or so, you're going to enter in another phase. And then he was talking about convergence
Yep.
and your sweet spot and everything. So for guys that are in their mid to late 30s, hitting that 40 mark or whatever, and starting
Yep.
to feel some of this, like I'm
Yep.
losing myself.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, let me just say, they're not going crazy when they start feeling both the isolation, the loneliness, that sense of, is this it? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? All of those are the rumblings of God taking you now into of all 4,000 leaders. This is amazing, Lance. But the
Mm,
number one insight, are you ready? That stood out across the board was there comes a point in time in the journey when what I call the great switch happens. And what that is in the first part, it's ministry with some being, but in the second part, it's ministry out of being.
being, yes,
Being. Being.
yeah,
Being.
yeah.
So in other words, the switch comes from we've been putting all our emphasis on skills, knowledge, models. Do we got it? Is this it? Is this what to God all of a sudden deciding he wants to do a deeper work in us.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he doesn't do the deeper work in us, he can't do the greater work. And I know that sounds canned, but it's what I teach. He can't do the greater work through us.
Yes.
And there comes a point in time when this is going to be, can I do something totally obnoxious here?
Absolutely.
Well, when we first start, God's voice is a lot like this. And I know this is going to blow, the taping and the stuff. I'm seeing all the zone going to red here. And as we start journeying with him, it keeps going a little bit like this. And we keep, okay, you want me to go do that? Okay, I'll take that job. I'll do this. I'll do that church, and I'll do this. And then you get, probably in the late 30s, early 40s, and it starts then, okay, I got his voice. And then somewhere probably in the mid 40s, it starts to go a little bit like this.
Yeah, and I'm having to go like this, right? Yeah. That's so good. That's so good.
And
so true.
You begin to think, whoa, where's that distinguishable voice I heard all those early years? Where is that?
Yes.
What happened to all the joy and all of the good stuff and everything like that? And it's not that God has stopped speaking. The question in the mid game he wants to know is, how bad do you want to hear?
So good.
And enough to lean in. So one question I always ask is here, was John, the Apostle John, deaf? And people look at me and go, that's a very strange, who cares kind of question. And I say back to them, no, I mean it. Was he deaf? And they go, well, of course not. He's probably, no. Well, then why did he lay his head on Jesus' shoulders? He's trying to pick up the heartbeat.
Yes.
Because he knew, I think John knew stuff was coming. Even much more than maybe Peter knew. John knew that stuff was ahead. So if he was going to get into the mess, he wanted to know he was hearing Jesus' voice.
Yes.
And so what I mean by out of the being, it means that now deeper intimacy is what drives the wider ministry.
Yeah.
So if you choose to not go for it during that time, in my opinion, you become then the quote unquote professional minister.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should not do things with excellence, but what I am saying is we all of a sudden start playing the institutional game, or we check out.
So true.
So that's why we lose most leaders in the mid game. They've got to make an intentional choice. I had to make an intentional choice. You had to make an intentional choice. Nobody skates on this. We got to make an intentional choice. How bad do we want to know what he's doing?
Yeah.
Or do we want to keep working on what we do and just make it better?
Yeah.
And that's why, all the falls that you and I have lived through in our generation of leaders who've gotten it, they've gotten to that place where God was calling them deeper. He wanted to dig deeper wells.
Boy, so true. And he starts editing your life and calling you to editing as you do it.
Absolutely.
And this isn't, I'm not trying to just segue smoothly into a plug of your book, but because we didn't even talk.
Segue roughly, smoothly, whatever you want to do.
But really, you wrote a book called Unlikely Nomads. That's just, I love it. What did you, just for folks, what's that book about, and what were you seeing over the last few years as you've entered into this stage in your life and been able to see some of the things that you're just touching on right there?
Yeah.
Tell us about being an unlikely nomad in the kingdom.
Well, I'm just going to do utter shameless promotion and put Stuck, my book on transition, with Unlikely Nomads.
Hey, by the way, I should be getting royalties on Stuck because I...
Of course. I'd be glad to.
I talk Stuck.
As soon as I get some of the sagebush swag, I'm in, man. No problem.
I think you're going to have to wait longer than I will. I know I'm going to swag you up, bro. I'll get you swagged up because you're going to be a recurring guest. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
promises, promises.
Yeah. So stuck. Yeah. Just love stuck. So go
So
ahead.
stuff was where I found myself personally in the midst of a transition. All the people who related to the stuff we just talked about are probably in the midst of a transition. What's a transition? You can't go back, but you don't know which way forward. And that is a shaping moment God uses. And so when I hit the book Stuck is because so many people I was coaching were in the in between.
Yeah.
And I began to realize, oh my gosh, we got to get some help. So we put some stuff in there through Bobby Clinton's research and stuff and things that help people get clarity on that. So Stuck came out about 8, 10 years ago, and I've been doing that. But all of a sudden, I began to realize, oh my gosh, we're not just personally in experiencing transitions. I believe the church in the U.S. is in a major transition. That we actually have crossed over, Phyllis Tickle, Great Emergence, we have crossed over into a period of time that's different. And we keep all acting like it's the same. It's not the
Mm,
same.
so true.
We're in a major change point of the church.
Yeah.
And what happens in a transition? You often want to go back, just like Peter did in John 21 when he was out fishing, and Jesus had to confront him and say, "Do you love me? Then are you going to do what I want you to do?"
Yeah.
Major transition for him. We're in a major moment, and I began to realize I need to take the transition stuff and apply it to where the church is.
Mm,
And some of the things I've been learning over the last 5 to 10 years and what God's been doing in the church and through the church and exposing the church. And I just believe that the American church that we had is not the American church that we need.
yeah.
And the reality of that is it's like an unlikely nomad. Even though none of us signed up for this and said, hey, I'd like to go through a major moment in turmoil and
Yeah.
ugliness even in America. And so, hey, sign me up.
Yeah.
Nobody
It sounds
signs
like
up for
fun.
that. Unlikely nomads is though we got to go on a journey to someplace new. And so the big scripture for me, Lance, was John 10. My sheep hear my voice and they follow. There are two acts there. One, are you intentionally choosing to hear his voice or the voice of the culture? Two, are you willing then to follow him as I believe he takes the church in America to a new place, a new form, a whole new expression
Mm-hmm.
that our culture in America is telling us the current expression is not something I can ever see myself
Yeah.
relating to.
Yeah.
So, Unlikely Nomads follows Abraham's journey when he was told to leave, not knowing the destination. So then how are you going to do that? So I put some key guides in there that'll help you do that, and some key principles and values that'll help us journey to a new place. But what it did was just like Stuck. Personal development, now kind of the corporate side of things.
Yeah.
Unlikely Nomad has been my deal. And by the way, we don't know where we're going. And anyone who
Mm,
says we do is wrong.
that's right.
We
That's
are
right.
on a journey and we have no idea where we're going. And that's the hardest thing for Americans to admit to themselves and leaders to admit, but it's true. So here's your number one word, surrender.
Mm,
Prize of surrender is revelation. If you don't surrender, you don't see. If you
mm,
choose to actually keep trying to work the system, you won't be a part of the future.
so
The
true.
reality is we got to surrender afresh and anew and let him take the sheep out of the sheep gate and take us to a new place. We about ready to take an offering or what? How the boys preach?
That's right. He's trying to preach now. He's trying to preach.
I'm,
Okay, let's wrap it up with this, Terry. So good, and I'll put up the graphics for Stuck and Unlikely Nomads because I couldn't recommend them more. I do recommend them a lot. So, uh, mentoring,
yeah,
and immediately I'm thinking about Clinton's constellation of mentoring.
yeah, yeah,
Um, why do we, no matter what stage we're in our life, and you already mentioned it for yourself,
yeah.
um, why do we never outgrow mentoring? And what should mentoring look like in these different stages?
Ooh, ooh. The
I
boy
lobbed
is
that one
teeing.
up for
The
you.
boy
I
is
lobbed
teeing
that
it
one
up, and now he's only giving me 30 seconds.
up. No, you got more than 30 seconds.
Okay, all right. So here's the truth: we don't get to clarity alone.
Mm,
That's why.
that's so good.
And if it's a journey, a lifelong journey, that means that every step along the way, the clarity that we need needs the voice of others. All right. So the breakthrough for me happened though with this idea of distinguishing mentoring and coaching. So here's an easy way. Mentoring pulls it out. Excuse me, got it completely wrong. Coaching pulls it out.
Mm-hmm.
Mentoring puts it in. There's a
Mm,
lot of confusion out there between those two skills. So as we go along the way, we both, all of us, no matter where you are, need both mentoring, somebody who can actually expose us to things we don't know
mm,
and their experiences that they do know, and coaching, somebody to help us process that and incorporate it into our lives. So what good coaching does basically is somebody who actually can help us take what we picked up in mentoring and use it and incorporate it, as opposed to give what I call the holy shake. Oh, that's really good, and no, I can't do anything with it. You
right.
know, the reality is that we all hear good stuff, but we don't incorporate it into behavior.
Mm, yes.
So mentoring helps us get the new paradigms. Coaching helps us incorporate those paradigms into behavior. Along the way, when you're first starting, you need more mentoring and some coaching. At the end, you need more coaching, but you still need some mentoring. So
Mm,
it's kind of like a sliding continuum as we journey our way, but we need both of those to
yeah.
help us finish well.
So good. So good. And I know in Stuck, you cover that really well. I mean, you
Yeah.
explain that. So, man, this wasn't long enough to have a talk. We're going to have some more talks. Hopefully we can get you back.